Aloha, everyone. I am Samuel Johnson.
And I'm Haley Dudley.
And welcome back to the Lyoko Retrospectives. And today we're going to be discussing episode 93 of Code Lyoko, Down to Earth. Now, quick recap of the last episode. We're not going to talk about the subplot. I already told you I hated it. But thankfully, as we saw at the end of the last episode, the group got some big developments. They learned that there are hundreds of replicas. Xana's got a new monster, the Colossus, a giant monstrosity, but on the plus side, they've managed to gain some new information, as Xana virtualized William into the real world, so taking advantage of an opportunity, Aelita was able to go to his tower before she deactivated. She copied a lot of files connected to William's code and sent them to Jeremy. And so, in this episode, the group thinks that they may have a chance of finally stopping Xana. With all the information that Jeremy has gathered over the season, from their trips through the skid to the replicas and just everything, he thinks he's found a way to finally destroy Xana. It's through a program that he calls a multi-agent program. Essentially, it's not fully complete, but if let loose, it can pretty much obliterate Xana. At the time right now, all he can do is maybe just use it to destroy a couple mega tanks, but if he can continue testing it and improving on it, and if used in the right way, they think it could destroy Xana. Now, while this is a big thing, the group realized that there is a certain risk with using it. Since the last time Jeremy created a program that was supposed to obliterate Xana, they got the Marabunta, and that one blew up in their face as something fierce. So they have to be careful with that. And on top of that, Xana still has William, but Jeremy says he may have an answer for that. With the programs that they got from the tower that Xana activated in the last episode, Jeremy thinks that he can activate a program that can free William. Finally. The thing is, though, in order to utilize it, they have to enter it into one of the replica computers, and once it's activated, they have to devirtualize William, as doing that will result in William being actually devirtualized. It won't just, send him back to wherever the hell Xana keeps him when he's not using him. It'll be like if they poof Aelita when she gets possessed by Xana. He'll pop right back to the factory, good as new, everything good. So they decide they have to go right now. They leave right now, which is a little bit of a problem because William's parents show up. They want to come and see their kid, and unfortunately, the only William available is the dumb one. So, what I like is that they immediately realize that the William they're talking to is not their son. They interact with him a little bit, but of course his parents would know who's their son and who isn't, because this guy is a complete moron. He's not a rebel without a cause. He's not a smart kid.
He barely has common sense.
Exactly. Whereas the other William, well, he was smart, and while he had a good heart, he was also a troublemaker, and he got expelled because he graffitied on everything, including the principal's car. Mm-hmm. Or was it the principal? I forget. But bottom line, they know that this is not right, and so William's parents and the teachers want to get to the bottom of it. But like most Code Lyoko plots, that's swept under the rug to focus instead on the actual story, as the group gets into the skid and goes back to the ice replica. Now, of course, they're pretty much walking on eggshells when they go there because the Colossus is a thing. So they're worried that they know that the Colossus may show up, and on top of that, there's a good chance that Xana will send William, and they can't devirtualize him too quickly, otherwise the program will be for naught. It has to be here and now, so there are certain risks involved. But thankfully, they do virtualize Odd and Aelita into the real world around the supercomputer for the ice sector replica. And as they're searching through the lab, they find what they think is Xana's ultimate plot. I say I think because they may have do a twist later, but it turns out Xana's big plan? Robot army. It turns out that he's been using the supercomputer replicas to create a robot army, which I suppose does line up with other things, because in the supercomputer for the Force Sector replica, he had robotic spiders. Mm-hmm. So you could make the argument that he was making soldiers to adapt for certain environments, which also kind of lines up, considering all the monsters he has at his disposal.
I still stand by. I feel like the robot army might just be this is preliminary forces. This is not the whole plan.
You can explain that once we're done with the summary, but it's a good idea. It's a good angle.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they think that that's but again, I think that would make sense. Because everywhere they've gone, we've seen things that could add up to a robot army. Those orbs in the space station, the mainframes that he was building in the desert, the robot spiders, and of course, which I don't know where the brains come in. Maybe maybe their techno-organic brains. Still seems creepy. Just reminds me of the Cybermen. But bottom line, Xana's created an army. This whole facility is filled with them, and just like with the spiders, the Xana symbol is emblazoned on them. So yeah, there's a big problem. And to make matters worse, when Odd and Aelita go looking for the supercomputer, Xana turns them on, and they immediately begin hunting Odd and Aelita. And of course, to make matters worse, on Lyoko, that William shows up. And like I said, they can't devirtualize William right away until they launch the program, so at best, all they're doing is just defending against him. Maybe some attacks here and there, but but they have to be wary not to cause too much damage lest he get poofed away. Mm-hmm. And to make matters worse, Xana brings in the Colossus again, which for some reason Jeremy doesn't realize that that's what Xana's doing, because just like when he brought in the Colossus before, he pooled all the energy from the replicas together to bring this thing back in. So I'm just kind of thinking to myself, why doesn't Jeremy realize that? Because once Xana begins pooling energy, he's like, I don't think I like the looks of that. Like, what do you think he's doing? Mm-hmm. Do you think he's scouring the internet looking for a place that delivers overnight?
No, he's trying to be helpful. He's trying to make sure that you guys all be able to get William out and everything. Of course.
Yeah, of course. He's just trying to be helpful. He's trying to pool all the resources. What do you think he's doing? Yeah. Seriously,
Anyway.
Yeah, so Colossus comes in, William's riding on its back, and it's just making its way slowly to the skid, which is still docked at a tower. And as such, Odd and Aelita do manage to make it to the supercomputer that's housing the ice sector replica. But unfortunately, Odd himself gets zapped in the real world, so he ends up back in the replica. And as such, Aelita's by herself. But thankfully, Aelita does manage to input the program into the supercomputer, and to slow down the Colossus, Jeremy uses the multi-agent program to freeze the digital sea and hold it in place. It doesn't hold it forever, but it does hold it in place. Also, I was wrong last episode. Shooting one of the eyes of the Colossus does not paralyze it. It just does nothing. It causes the eye to glow, then it just stops, and then it acts like nothing happens. So I was wrong in that regard. Sorry about that. But yeah, ultimately, but thankfully, Aelita manages to activate the program just before she gets zapped back to the replica, and Yumi herself gets swiped by the Colossus arm, sending her back to the factory. Unfortunately,
right as Ulrich's about to take his stab.
Yeah, before he can kill William, the Colossus steps on him. Mm-hmm. So he's back to the factory too. So it looks like they're all screwed. And as William's just kind of standing there thinking, yep, we've won. The bad guys have won this time. Odd shoots him in the back. And this time, he doesn't disappear into a cloud of smoke. We see the red grid lines, and he's gone. And back at the factory, we see William's profile card pop up with his new updated outfit too, which I like. Mm-hmm. And everyone's gathered around, and from one of the scanners staggers out William. Thankfully, back in his season 2 through 3 outfit, which that's the outfit he should have been wearing. So I don't know why he wasn't wearing it the last time he devirtualized out. But
maybe he was to keep it clear between real William and controlled William.
But both the William clone and the Xana possessed William are wearing the same outfit.
Well, yeah, no, because they're both part of Xana.
No, they aren't. Well,
yeah.
Actually, that wouldn't make sense. So,
it
actually does explain it. Never mind. But yeah, William comes back. He's in his original outfit, and the group's all happy to see him. And he's like, "Hey guys, I did a good job, right?" And the group kind of just shares like a look with each other.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, you did amazing.
Great.
Yeah. But yeah, unfortunately though, this victory comes at a cost. While William is freed, the group loses the skid. As the Colossus managed to get to the skid, and completely destroys it, just knocking it off of the tower and causing it to fall in the digital sea. Thankfully, Aelita is spared from being trapped in Lyoko again because the cockpit blew up before it could fall in, so she got devirtualized, but yeah, that's a heavy blow against the Lyoko group.
Yeah.
Without the skid, they can no longer travel to replicas, and they need to find some way to launch the multi-agent program when it gets perfected.
Mm-hmm.
So they got a victory in, and William was a valuable asset to Xana, and so taking him off the board was a key thing, but
that's a heavy blow.
Yeah, it is a heavy blow. Thankfully, with William's return, they're able to delete they delete the William clone because they don't need him anymore, and so as such, I guess they explain everything to William, what happened to him, and he pretty much just slips in and just says, "Okay, I can explain. I understand that something's wrong." And so his parents, instead of like questioning what happened, they're like, "Oh, William, you're okay." But
you're now talking in full sentences.
Yeah, and something that I do like is that while the group is hesitant to let William go back to Lyoko, which fair enough, they just got him back. They don't want him to go. They don't want Xana to go back and say, "I'm going to take him back." At the same time, William still has his memories of Lyoko. They state that he doesn't remember all the stuff from when he was being controlled by Xana, which fair enough. I think that makes sense, but I'm glad that they at least let him remember the supercomputer and Lyoko. So because I think that would have been cheap if they just brought him back and then they just like hit the reset button on him.
Yeah.
So I like that they at least kept that so that he's still in on the secret, and even if he doesn't go to Lyoko, he could still be a valuable asset if he stuck around. Though considering that there are only 2 episodes left, I don't know how valuable an asset he can be.
I mean, at least he is still part of the Lyoko story and not just, completely.
Yeah.
Now that you have him back, we don't need that part of that character anymore. He was never involved because I feel like, honestly, if they were to do a memory wipe with William at this point, it would just kind of be like, you've been sitting watching this whole plot involving him? What? Did you think it was going somewhere?
No! They freed him now. We don't need him anymore.
It's done!
Yeah. So,
no.
Because I like that they at least let him keep his memories of Lyoko. The stuff with Xana, of course, is foggy because for obvious reasons.
That makes sense,
but I do like that he still remembers Lyoko. That his memory just wasn't wiped completely. He's fine. He's stayed as still in the supercomputer, and if they need him, he could be like last minute, have no other option backup. I think that makes sense.
I will say though, at the end, I thought it was interesting that they did not seem more concerned about the fact that the skiff was completely gone.
Yeah, that's how they do this in the show. Stuff like that really does not.
Yeah, no, and I understand, but it was, we have William back. We're gonna ignore all collateral damage.
They touch on it, but that's all they do. They touch on it.
Yeah, and
which is a bit.
That feels like it's a big thing. That feels like it's more than just a small hiccup in the plan.
That's a heavy loss.
That's planning a road trip and then losing your car
halfway through. Yeah. So, but so I'll get to that. But firstly, what do you think of the episode?
I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie. I was happy to see a resolution with William. So.
Same. I'm glad to see that happen because William, like I said, William was cool as an evil Lyoko warrior, but as you do with an evil 6th Ranger, at some point you want them to come back, and the group did little by little try and make progress in doing that, even if sometimes the attempts even if we didn't always see it, because actually that is a flaw with the plot. Most of the time we saw William, he was mostly just as the antagonist. Whereas I think they only touched on him and how they were trying to free him a handful of other times.
Yeah.
Which I think is annoying, but you can make the argument they were working off screen. So to see them take a big step like this, I do like that. And it does show they still cared about William and they knew they had to get him back. And they had that forethought even as early as the beginning of the season because, like I said, when they had the skid, they had 5 teleportation pods. A center one for Aelita's cabin, 3 for the rest of the Warriors, and the 5th for William whenever they got him back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, that's not going to happen anymore because the skid's destroyed, so that's not going to happen, but they do at least acknowledge that was a big thing. And the episode, it took steps towards resolution and seeing things come to a head. They
Mm-hmm.
took a major step in finally being able to free William from Xana's control. They finally have an idea of what Xana's plan is with
Mm-hmm.
the robot army, which... Go ahead. Tell me your theory with that, actually.
I honestly feel like the robot army is just, like, kind of a distraction because, like, if you have to deal with all of the killer robots, then you're not going to notice the almost omniscient computer program destroying everything else and doing whatever real havoc that he wants to accomplish. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, because I like that, because I think that makes sense, because...
Same?
Because if you ask me, the robot army's kind of generic.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
As far as with, yeah, no, I agree, because, like, with Xana, it's been so far, like, whenever he's done a robot thing or something that looks so straightforward as an army, that's all, there's usually something else, some little, like, oh, but you may have defeated all of these guys, but you know what? I have this one little line of code that's going to slip in and make everything hell for you.
Exactly, because he has had armies before. Like, he got infected a bunch of rats and turned them into an infestation.
Mm-hmm.
And then an episode later, he did the same thing with hornets. In another episode, he possessed the Kiwi 2 robot and caused it to replicate and sick them on the group.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, everything has had, like, a common thing, an essence of cruelty, of the odds being stacked against you. And to be fair, a robot army is kind of a big thing. It's just that for Xana, it feels like a generic plot.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, which is why I like what you said,
Mm-hmm.
that he seeks the robot army on the world from all these different areas, and everyone's distracted, fending them off, keeping people safe. And while they're over here fighting what they think is the bigger threat, Xana's over here infecting their systems and systematically ripping them apart.
I mean, cybersecurity is not at the forefront of your mind when you have a robot that is shooting at you.
Exactly. That, I think, is a big thing, and I like that. And they do at least. I think that would make more sense to be Xana's overall goal. So, I hope that that's what the case is, because again, Robot Army just kind of feels generic. It's not like an awful threat. It just feels kind of generic for someone like Xana.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think another thing though that I like is the feeling of the end game approaching.
Mm-hmm.
Like last episode, they took a lot of major steps already with getting the codes on William, which they use in this episode to free him. The approaching of the Colossus, learning that there are hundreds of replicas. But what makes it even bigger here is that, for starters, we see the group, like, you feel like the finish line is so close now. Jeremy's got the program to delete Xana. It's just that he has to perfect it. But there's still bumps in the road. They are now, like, when the skid is destroyed, it definitely felt like an oh shit moment.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like at the end of a season of Power Rangers when the bad guys trash their command center and most of their Zords are destroyed. Like, that feels like a big loss. Like, like, there's still hope because the good guys are still around, but that was a very big weapon in their arsenal, and taking that out severely reduces their chances of victory. And the considering that the skid was essentially like their Zord, it allowed them to travel from replica to replica through the internet.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a big loss, and even as Ulrich says at the end of the episode, it would take months to program in a new one.
Yeah.
So that's going to be that's a big loss, but it also gives you gives the sense that the end game approaching really can pump you up, make you want to see where it goes, because you know the end is coming, but for who?
Mm-hmm.
And I like that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I will say, I really wish that Yumi and Ulrich would have just taken out the Colossus when they were standing there chit-chatting about it instead of doing something. Like, he is on the Colossus' shoulders, and he's chit-chatting about how, yeah, no, I know your hit was ineffective, and we're just kind of waiting to see what happens. But
yeah, because Ulrich saw the eye.
Mm-hmm.
So why didn't he do anything?
Yeah, anyway. But I feel like that could have been resolved in this episode. At the same time, I feel like maybe the reason it wasn't was because that would be too easy, and I understand that the Colossal is supposed to be like the champion of the evil side, but
yeah, so yeah, like the instant they saw there were two eyes, they probably should have realized, hey, what if we tried hitting them both?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, that's, I think, a big thing. And again, and of course, the subplot with the William clone was dumb, and like a good chunk of Code Lyoko's subplots, it really didn't affect anything in the grand scheme. So
Mm-hmm.
that was annoying. And of course, like you said, at one point you mentioned, there's still the rush pacing, how they quickly try to resolve it.
Yeah.
That's annoying, and I feel like that we could have seen more of William getting getting informed of what happened since he's been gone.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I still really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely it's got an end game vibe to it. Definitely makes you feel like things are coming to a head. They took major steps. They freed William, but they lost the skid. So
yeah, it feels like the story is finally coming to a close, and I'm really interested to see how everything wraps up. But
yeah, so
that's all I have to say.
That's all I have to say too. So yeah, we said our piece. Awesome episode. Took a lot of cool things happened. Minor stuff that felt dumb, but overall still really fun. So yeah. That's about it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson.
And I'm Haley Dudley.
And I'll see you next week as we see the penultimate episode of Code Lyoko. Take care.